Hi, this is John, and welcome to another edition of Statistics Tell a Story. Week 7 of the NFL. I'm having a pretty good year. I believe I'm up 5 units betting. I'm 20 and 10 on my pick 5 games against the spot pool. And I did mention in an earlier video, well, kind of a video, where I just put my picks in description. But I'm going to talk about a few of the games here that I've already mentioned in that description. 2 games today that I am on. One and uh, there's 4 games that I'm on, counting two tomorrow, and I kind of like them all equally. So I hate to even order them, but I suppose if I had to, the one game that probably I'm most interested in, or I lean a little more confident on, is Minnesota getting 2.5 points against Philadelphia. Minnesota's at home, where they have a little more of a home field advantage historically than some other teams. Philadelphia, I believe they've been outgained in all 6 of their games. Certainly, they could have won the Denver game, and maybe you could argue should have won it. There are some games they should have lost. I can't even name their offensive coordinator, but I can't imagine him lasting more than a year. They're just nowhere near the same team they were last year. Yeah, they're 4-2. And it's easy to think that they're going to rebound, but I'm not sure that this is much more than an average team at this point. Um, and So the Vikings, on the other hand, let's not forget they won 13 games in the regular season, or maybe it was 14. I don't remember. They did lose Sam Darnold, but I think a big part of their um, success last year was due to coaching. I still like O'Connell as a coach. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league. Carson Wentz has been decent as a quarterback. I never quite understood why it's almost as if he played himself out of a starting role. And I remember, I think in Philadelphia, he had I want to say 33-7, something like that, TD to interception rate. Not that that tells the whole story, but then in Indianapolis, I think 27-7 TD to interception rate. And he was kind of run out of town, I think, because of one game. And so, I can't say I followed his career that close, but I do know that he's middle of the pack PFF rated this year. So, going into the season, he was arguably the best backup quarterback in football. He's still, I mean, he might be better than JJ McCarthy for all we know. So I don't know that they're losing anything at the quarterback position. I think Minnesota should actually be favored in this game. 2.5 points is, a little shy of the key number of three, but there are still scenarios where they lose by 1 or 2 points also, especially Philly tends to play a lot of close games. So my other game is the Jets. The Jets, and I'll probably keep backing them until they win or cover. They're 0 and 6. They have not they've been in most of their games. They move the ball, just a fumble here, an interception there, a block kick there. They could be 2 and 4, 3 and 3. They're playing Carolina, who's 3 and 3. Who I still don't know that Carolina's that good. I'm still kind of down on Bryce Young. Um, it's funny. I've been wanting to do another article or another video on Bayes' theorem and how it can relate to drafting, and I still think Bryce Young quite candidly was a mistake as the first pick, being 5'10", and Bayes' theorem would come into play where you look at prior probabilities, and that's based on the fact that why so few 5'10" guys have ever been successful. And even this year, it's that 3 and 3 record kind of disguises a below average year by Young. I think he's 22nd PFF, which actually isn't bad for him out of 32 starters. More telling is they've had a really good run game, which should set up play action, but he's still averaging less than 6 yards per attempt. So a lot of people are thinking, man, he's having a decent year. He really isn't. The one thing I'll give Young credit for is he does not turn the ball over. And in fact, Justin Fields, I think interception wise, both last year and this year, has not turned the ball over. Fields does have a propensity to fumble. That's a concern. I'm still not sure about the coaching on the Jets, but 0-6 teams, so there's some technical indicators on the Jets. They're at home. They're playing a Carolina team that I think is maybe at their peak, so at their market. And I look for the Jets to win and cover their first game today. Tomorrow, I like the Lions. The spot is actually shot up to 5.5. And I think you're laying 120. So personally, if you haven't, I bet it earlier in the week at 4.5. If you are going to bet it, I'd probably wait because I don't think it's going to get to 6. Actually, it's 6 at some books. Again, you can lay, I think maybe 120. If you can lay 115 and lay 5.5, that's not bad right now. I don't know that it'll get better than that, but it might be 5.5 with regular juice by tomorrow, for all we know. I like the Lions. I love betting on Dan Campbell, particularly after a loss. They're at home. They're playing a Tampa Bay team that's good. They're injured, so are the Lions. But I think that the clock is going to kind of strike 12 a little bit on Baker Mayfield, and I look for the Lions. I bet the Lions a little bit on the money line. I don't really like laying all these points. I feel more confident they're going to win. You might have to lay 180 or so, but I I almost think there's maybe a little more equity in that. I'm not one of those guys that bets those money lines, but with Dan Campbell, I feel he's going to win the game. He's going to find a way to get his team to win the game. I'm not so high on covering that many points. But again, I had bet it earlier in the week at 4.5. And then I like Houston. I am still a big CJ Stroud believer. I think sometimes early notions stick with you, and what's sticking with me is his rookie year, taking on he took over a 3-13 team with a rookie coach, a bad offensive line. They still have a bad offensive line, but I believe the first 4 games as a 21-year-old, I want to say he passed for 300 yards in each of those 4 games. I think they went 2-2 or whatever it was. But either way, I think last year everyone said he had a sophomore slump, and maybe he did, but I just really like him. I like their coach, D'Amico Ryans. They're getting 3.5 points. Again, you got to lay 120. I think it's worth it. It's 3 at a lot of books, but see if you can get the 3.5. That's a key number. Even laying up to, I'd probably lay up to 125, because Houston, they play a lot of low scoring defensive games. I think their offense is better than they've shown. I do think Seattle's a good team, and Seattle is at home. But so again, I don't like it so much at 3. Get 3.5. If you have to lay more than 120, maybe you can sit it out. So again, this was a game I bet earlier in the week. I had to lay 115, which is a lot better than 120, but I did get the key 3.5 points. So this is one, where I a little bit unlike the Lions game. Even though I think Houston could very well win it, I'm going to want the points here. Although I did bet Houston a little bit on the money line also. So anyway, those are the 4 picks that I have. I mentioned in my earlier video my contest selections, which are those 4, as well as the Chargers. So if I had to bet a 5th game, actually I did bet a little bit on the Chargers, but I'm not going to go on the record because they're my 5th pick, laying, I believe it was 1.5 points against the little bit overhyped Indianapolis Colts. All right. So anyway, those are my selections. And if you have not hit like or subscribe, please do so. And tell your friends, again, every view, every like is helpful. And I will see you next time on Statistics Tell a Story. Thank you.